This is a Pint-Size Media podcast production.
Hi, I'm Lauren Edmonds, and this is the Lauren Edmonds Podcast. I'm talking all things education and parenting for children in the primary school years, but specifically for remedial and special needs children. I hope to give you my insights that I've gained over the last 12 years of in-field research, owning a special needs school in Johannesburg, as well as the academic research I've been doing for decades. I hope you enjoy it. We said we're going to talk a little bit about empathy for children, but more specifically around the struggles that they're having, and even more specifically around children not wanting to get up in the morning and go to school, and how we perceive that as parents, and especially when we as parents, as adults, need to get up and go on with our own day, and then we've got the stresses of that and the tasks and responsibilities we have in the home, and then our child is not playing the game. And how does that work for you? And what do you do about it as a parent? And there's a definite lean for many parents into a demand-based approach in the morning. Been there myself. You just need to get up and go. So you just pick up your kid and you get him up and you get him going. And there's a level of, well, then go to school without shoes. Or I don't care if you don't brush your teeth. We just need you out the door and at school. And that's a reality, because if you're a working parent, you need to get to work as well. And if there's load shedding and traffic jams, you've got to leave earlier. And there's a life demand in that. And then you go and talk to professionals in my field, and we have this, take it slow with your kid, be accepting, find connection. And the next morning you wake up and the same thing happens, and all you really want to do is pick him up and put him in the car. And that's a reality. So how do we get beyond that so we don't harm the child, so we don't create more problems, because that's how we deal with our children can exacerbate things and just make life harder for us. And what part is the most important in this? And while we think, and I want to say that the most important thing is the child's development, but in the process of getting there, it's actually your own work as an adult. And it's your own regulation, because we want to assume that an adult is an adult and has more power over themselves, more resources, more ability to execute plans. So when your kid's not getting ready in the morning quickly enough, you need to get up half an hour earlier. When you can't get them to eat their breakfast because you're busy making lunches in the morning, you need to make lunches the night before. And it's that changing of habits for you as an adult that is tricky. Because we can't say it was somebody else that caused me to be late or somebody else that caused me to be angry. We've got to take it on ourselves. So the first step actually is, can I take responsibility for my emotions, for how I feel about things, and for the change I need to go through? Regardless of whether I'm dealing with a child who won't get up in the morning, or a dog, my pet, that won't stop barking, or the pool that won't turn blue. And we do need to have space for the feeling of the world is tough and the world is hard, and be okay with the sort of taking it off our shoulders a bit and placing it somewhere else. But it's got to come back down to who I am and what I'm doing and what I want. And the work is hard to make change, to come up with a different outcome. It would be the same if you're wanting to get fit, or you know, health and diet is always the big thing that we always talk about. Or stop smoking, or stop drinking, or go and study something when you're 40 and you haven't studied for years. And all of the things you need to put in place for yourself so that you can achieve the goal. And one of these things is parenting. And they talk about children don't come with manuals, but they actually do. Go to an exclusive books anywhere and there's manuals all over the place. The trick then is not to read more manuals, it's to figure out for yourself what you want to do differently. So the start of my child is not coping in the morning and not getting to school is not what's wrong with my child. The start is, what can I adjust? One little thing I can adjust that might make life easier for me, and in turn easier for them, or easier for me to parent them in a more productive way. So that's the starting point for my kid won't get up and go to school in the morning. If I had to sit down and be pressed for a couple of things you can do, definitely you have to wake up before your child. And you've got to get a number of things done first. If you shower in the morning, you need to be showered before your kid wakes up. Because if you're in the shower for a good 10 minutes, what is your child doing? That's a recipe for disaster, depending on what kind of kid you have. And at the best, they've fallen back asleep. At the worst, they're causing havoc around the house. So I would say you need to get up 30 minutes before, get yourself ready. Not completely ready, because you also want to talk about role modeling and helping your child to brush their teeth, and you do it with them, that type of stuff. Anything you can do the night before, very important. So make the lunches, get uniforms ready, pack bags. You don't want to be scrambling around the house. And this can be difficult for adults as well because we struggle with those things. So not only should you be more prepared and more planned, but you need to be developing your own skills of planning and preparation and organization. So that could be argued as more of the actual first step or pre-step. And then other practical things would be, when you wake up your child in the morning, how are they waking up? Are they a morning person or not? That's something to consider. And if they're not a morning person, do you really want to be blasting in there and pulling the duvet off them and creating more chaos? But having said that, if you do it too gently, they just never wake up. So we could think of ideas of warning children for what's going to happen next, because ultimately this is all about change. I go from a sleep state to an awake state. I go from a home state to a school state. I go from my pajamas to my uniform. All of that are little micro changes. So how do we prepare them for each one of those things? In winter, put the uniform near a heater and warm up the uniform. Simple thing. That could really make a difference, because that could be the thing your kid is really struggling to do, is to put on his cold uniform. Now, you won't know until you try that, until you have a look at it. So it's being observant. The biggest thing is, and something that I did as a parent and I do in my school community as well, is observe first. Don't assume. So you make your changes for yourself, and then in the context of your changes, what are you now seeing in your child? When are they struggling the most? And then not to assume the struggle, but to look around and go, well, what is in his environment that's causing struggle? And if they put the TV on and can't get away from the screen, unplug the TV, hide the remote away. Just take that component out of the picture. And they might protest in the beginning, but eventually habits can be changed easily, for good and for bad. That can sort of come out of the program in the morning. And the idea is, James Clear spoke about it in Atomic Habits, and he talked about stacking habits. So start a routine in the morning. We talk about sleep hygiene in the evenings, a routine to get children to go to sleep. We need a routine to get children up and going. And it could be exactly the same routine on the weekends, holidays, and school, just maybe pulled out a bit more, takes a bit longer, or it happens a bit later. But a simple routine, and this will be amazing for them as adults, because if they build a beautiful morning habit to get up and go, and perhaps a different one in winter to summer, or a different one slightly in holidays to school, but just this is the way we do things around here. It's unquestioning. And if we don't create the stacked habits and we don't create this routine, then children are left up to their own devices to create their own routine. And how does a 9-year-old know even where to start with this? I don't even know that a 16-year-old can do this. That's one of the big things, is how do we create the step-by-step process of get in the car and get to school, so that on difficult mornings, the process sort of carries you through and you've got time to handle any big emotions that happen in the morning. Because, of course, the next layer on top of that is connection. You don't get your kid in the car by being disconnected with them. They'll resist more. So it's really spending time with them. Brush your teeth in the morning with them, having jokes in the mirror, playing games. If it's a child that responds nicely to challenges, can you do it with your opposite hand? Can you do it with your head upside down, standing on one leg? And that becomes a bonding time. And children, in fact, everybody responds better when we feel connected. So those are some broad but specific things that you should do. So to sum it up, change your own habits so that you're available to your children in the morning. Perhaps make a list of what the routine is and try it out. Be very observant in the beginning and seek connection all the way and see if those make any differences.